All right. Hello, hello. How's it going, everybody? I think I'm live now. Um, hope everybody's doing well. If you're tuning in, feel free to drop where you're tuning in from in the chat. And so also I can make sure that that works and that I can read your comments as I go through kind of the stream. All right. Okay, I can go ahead and get started in just a few seconds. Okay. Okay. I think we should be good to go. I'm just gonna make sure. I think we're live. I'm gonna make sure we're live. Yeah. Okay. We're good to go. All right. So I guess I'll just dig right into this. So this is just like a super kind of informal stream where I'm just gonna be going through kind of my journey in learning AI and a bunch of the AI apps that I've built this year. And, thankfully some of them have done pretty well. So, yeah, I'm just going to share kind of what I've done and kind of some of the lessons that I've learned and show you all some code as well. And give you all some resources to get started with building AI apps because I honestly think it's a really cool thing to do. AI is kind of very hyped up right now, and there's a lot of interest in it. And so, kind of as engineers, as builders, as hackers, I think it's very worthwhile to kind of dig into this field if you haven't already. So, yeah, I'm just gonna get started. I'm gonna kind of just like share my screen, talk about different projects that I've done. And if you all have any questions, please drop them in the comments. I'll try to keep an eye on that. And yeah, let's just kick off right away. So I guess I'll just start off with an intro. So my name's Hassan. I'm a developer advocate, and what that means is I help educate people on how to use, my company's products. And so I'll do a lot of community stuff, a lot of kind of helping manage like Discord and Reddit and Twitter, and also some in-person stuff, some meetups and conferences, some content, some like YouTube videos, and some example apps. And so that's kind of what I do for my day job. But on weekends, I kind of just like hacking on stuff and a lot of AI apps lately. So I've kind of been building side projects consistently for about 2 years now. And last year, I launched about 11 side projects. They got about 10,000 visitors overall. And then about like 500 GitHub stars maybe between my projects. And so that was last year. And this year it's been pretty drastically different. I think primarily because of this whole AI wave that's been happening. So let me share my screen and we can start going through it. All right. Okay. I hope y'all can see my screen. If not, please feel free to send a message and I'll check in from time to time. So yeah, my year this year has been pretty drastically different. Also launched about 10 projects similar to last year, but instead of around 10,000 visitors, I've gotten about 8 million visitors across all my projects and about 20,000 stars throughout. All my projects are also open source. So you can go to like github.com/nutlope, which is my username, and you can check out all my projects. And kind of that's what I'm kind of here to talk to you about today, like how this like huge jump happened from 10,000 visitors across my side projects last year to 8 million this year. So we can start going through things. So the way I kind of got into AI is through this first project here, and what this basically what this happened is in 2022, in late 2022, my company at the time ran a conference, and we had a bunch of photos to show people. We had maybe like 500 images that we wanted to show, and we wanted to put them in this image gallery and share it with people. The issue is, when I did that and we were about to share them, my CEO came to me and was like, "Hey, like, we probably need to put, alt tags on these images to make them accessible," which is, a totally reasonable request, except doing it manually for 500 images is very time consuming and very tedious. So I thought, like, can I find some machine learning model that can do this for me, that can take in an image and, spit out a description that I can use as the alt tag. And yeah, I ended up doing some research. I found one. I used it. It was very accurate. I think I went and I read through everything just to make sure it made sense. And I think it got two of them wrong. But other than that, like, this was really my first big, like, light bulb moment of, like, holy crap, like, this is real. Like, AI is real. This isn't some, like, hyped up Web3 stuff from last year. This is, like, actually very valuable. And I just saw it, firsthand, save me like hours and hours and hours. And so, yeah, that was kind of my first foray into AI. And that's kind of how I got into it. Basically, right after that, I started just building a bunch of other projects. And so, a project I built with my buddy Kevin is called QRGPT. And essentially, with QRGPT, it helps you kind of it helps you generate QR codes, essentially, that link to anything you want. So we can do, since this is an MLH screen, we can do MLH.io. We want to link to that. And I'm just going to click on one of these prompt suggestions. But the idea is, you describe what you want the background of your QR code to be, and it'll generate, instead of a boring black and white QR code, it'll, hopefully generate something that is, yeah, it's just a little nicer, and it's still a valid QR code. So you can kind of scan it and go to MLH.io. So we launched that. It got about 13,000 visitors overall, and about 12,000 generated QR codes in the last few months, which is pretty cool. So um, that was kind of my second project. After that, I got into some other stuff. So I built this AI news summarizer for TechCrunch articles, and the idea is, you can kind of go to any TechCrunch article online. I'll make this bigger. You can go to any TechCrunch article and click on it, and then all you have to do is change the TechCrunch domain to TechCrunch summary. And then it takes you to my site and automatically parses the article and returns like a quick summary with a few bullet points. And so, yeah, convenient if you don't want to read, long articles, and you kind of want to just get started very quickly. And the reason I'm showing you this video and not the live demo is I got a very interesting email from from the TechCrunch lawyers, or more specifically from the Yahoo lawyers. I had no idea that Yahoo owns TechCrunch, but they were like, "Hey, we saw your site. You probably should take it down." And so I took it down. As you can see, there's like no traffic in the last few months, but it did pretty well for a while when it was live. So that was that. And then I just started responding to like random people on Twitter for stuff that they were asking for. So here, like, Samina asks, like, can someone build an AI to help me pick some glasses? And I was like, all right, bet, I got you. And so I built this little tool called Find Glasses, where you can define a couple of parameters. Like, you can define what your shape looks like and what your gender is, and any added context that you want the AI to know. And it uses an LLM, uses GPT 3.5 to figure out, what the right pair of glasses are. And it uses like the Amazon API to actually look it up on Amazon and link it, so you can actually just go and buy it. It doesn't work perfectly all the time, but just kind of like a little, like, like she posted this at 5:31 p.m. and then I responded at 9:11, like 3 hours after. So it's very much like can I hack something together very, very quickly that'll help kind of satisfy this thing. And as I go, again, if you guys have any questions, please, like, drop them in the chat. I'll be taking a look from time to time. So that was the glasses. And then my friend Theo kind of said, like, hey, like, someone should make an AI app that can help me, auto generate commit messages. And then, my CTO is like, CC, not load my Twitter username. And he's like, I love that idea. And then I went and just built it in a couple hours as well. So I essentially, the idea is that you run a git add, you run the CLI tool AI commit, and it'll generate a commit message for you, and it'll tell you, hey, do you want to use this commit message? And if you want to, you just press yes. So I built it, and it did pretty well. I ended up launching it as its own post, and it's like kind of on npm. People can go and check it out and download it, and there's about 30,000 developers that are now using it to auto generate their commit messages, which is cool. And it's also one of my more popular repos. It's a little over 6,000 stars, a bunch of PRs, a bunch of contributors, which is really nice, about 25 contributors. So this is really cool to build. So another one that I built is called Twitter Bio Generator. And this one is like very, very simple. All you have to do is you can kind of, open the site up. You can copy in your current Twitter bio and select your vibe, and it'll just generate a couple of different bios for you and stream the text in. So just a little like nice tool. And honestly, for a lot of this stuff, you may be thinking like, oh, like this is like so simple, like nobody's going to use this. But I think like we as like hackers and engineers, like we get it's very easy to forget that the majority of the world can't code, and the majority of the world doesn't know how AI works. And so even if you're doing something like this, which is very simple, it's like a single API call to like the GPT API and get back a response that like people will actually use it. Yeah, kind of launched this, made it open source. A bunch of people, forked it and cloned it, which was nice. And yeah, I ended up doing pretty well as well. I ended up getting over 200,000 people that actually visited it. So even though, despite it being like a super, super simple app, a lot of people have thankfully checked it out. So yeah, that was Twitter Bio. And so then, that was this is all my kind of exploration with LLMs for the most part. And then I got into kind of like image models. And so I built this site called restorphotos.io. And the motivation behind the site actually was that my parents would send me really old pictures of themselves. And I essentially wanted to try to upscale the images. I want to try to find a model that can unblur people's faces. I guess more specifically, like I think this is a good example here. I'll actually try out this is actually a picture of my dad doing karate back when he was young. So you can see his face is kind of blurry, and so we're going to upload this image, and you can see that it gets a lot more clear. I'll zoom in so you can really see it, and with the slider. And so this is before and then after. Right? Like you can really see there's a pretty big difference. So yeah, that's kind of that was kind of this project. This is like my first kind of viral project as well. It did pretty well. A lot of people used it. A lot of people, checked it out on GitHub, and yeah, about a little over 2 million visitors overall, which was really nice to see. And yeah, the architecture. Yeah, let me quickly talk about the architecture of this app. So essentially for this app, like this is how it works. So we have this, we have our front end over here, and we have our back end over here. So the first thing that the user does, goes onto the site and uploads an image like we just saw me doing. And it sends it to where I store my images, which is this service called upload.io. They rebranded to ByteScale. It sends the image back to the front end, and then I take that image URL and I send it to the backend. And so I use Next.js for all of my side projects, and it's just very convenient for me because I can just do my front end, which is just React, and then my backend, which is just these like Node.js Lambda functions essentially. So I send the image to the backend. The Next.js serverless function on the backend kind of processes it by sending it to our machine learning model, our upscaling model. And so it sends it to that, and I use a service called Replicate to handle that. I send back the image, and I send back the image to the front end to be displayed to the user. And so it's like relatively straightforward. Upload component. You get back an image URL, you send it to the back end, that sends it to the machine learning model, and then you just send that back to the front end to display to the user. And so a lot of these apps are like single API calls, very, very, very kind of simple. So yeah, that was Restore Photos. And then, for my most viral project yet is this site called Room GPT. And with Room GPT, the idea is that it's like an interior design AI model where you can kind of upload an image of your room, and you can get back essentially your room but redesigned in different themes. And so these are some examples of like rooms it generated, and you can just transform rooms. So you can upload a room like this and get back a room like this, so we can actually use it. So let's look up like a living room or something on Google. Let's see, why not? Any one of these actually is good. Okay, cool. We're gonna say living room. And we can go back to the site and we'll upload that living room here. And we can specify that it's a living room, and we can pick a bunch of different themes actually to generate. So I'm just going to pick like 4 random ones. And yeah, it uses this model called ControlNet to actually take this room and output a bunch of different themes. So yeah, while I wait on that. Yeah. So hopefully within about 15, 20 seconds, we'll see a couple of good generations. We can actually just come back to it and talk about some other stuff while that's still working. So it kind of went viral on Twitter, and a bunch of people saw it, and not only on Twitter but on a lot of other platforms. You can see like in my refers, Twitter is pretty small here. It's mostly like organic on Google and through other social media, which is interesting. So yeah, I kind of tweeted about it. I posted like updates as I tweeted about it as well. So 12 hours after, I had about 10,000 people that used it. 24 hours after, it was 30,000. And then, just kept going up. 48-hour update was 100,000 people. And then 3-day update is 270,000 people. So I think about 500,000 people used it in the first week after launching, which was, just like amazing to see. So yeah, they're done now. You can see like, all the different styles. So you can see it kept the same room, but it had all these different styles. So yeah, that's essentially that. I actually, so for the Restore Photos app as well for this one, a lot of people started uploading like inappropriate images to be restored here, and so I ended up building a not safe for work filter and open sourcing it. And so this is what I use now to kind of like make sure images are okay before I process them. And yeah, that's really essentially it. I kind of just wanted to show off a bunch of the projects that I built and talk about them. I guess I can talk about some lessons learned and answer any questions that people have. So essentially, like one of the biggest things I've learned from all these projects is that it's really, really important to basically make these very bare bones MVPs. Like you shouldn't spend like months and months and months building something. You should ideally do something that won't take you a lot of time, or try to scope down your MVP to the bare essentials and then launch that and see how that stuff does. And in that way, you're kind of, de-risking the projects that you're working on. If you're working on a project that eventually doesn't do well when you launch it, it's better to have spent 1 week on it than 6 months on it. So I really like this idea of like rapid iteration, of launch a project really quickly, and then if it does well, if people start using it, then you can go to it and really invest more into it and build a lot more, and keep building on it, keep building on that success. And if it doesn't do well, then great, you've only spent a week on it. You don't have that much to lose. So yeah, that's kind of one thing I'd say. Another takeaway that I'd say is that your idea should be very simple. Sometimes talk to my friends and they're like, oh yeah, I want to build like this side project. I'm like, oh, what's the side project? And they're kind of like, oh yeah, I want to build this like multi-sided platform for sellers and merchants to do this, and then there's also a community in there, and then people can do this and that. And it's like, that's that's so broad. And like, yes, maybe that'll work eventually, but like that's just way too big of an idea. You kind of have to scope it down. The way I like to describe it is if you can't describe it to someone in 5 seconds, or you can't describe it to someone in like 5 words, then it's probably not a good idea. Um, so yeah, another kind of takeaway from a lot of my AI projects is I try to incorporate kind of the latest AI models, so that the end result is especially impressive. With Room GPT that I built, that one used this machine learning model called ControlNet, and that had just come out like 3 or 4 days before. So it was one of the first applications of that AI model, and yeah, so I highly encourage you kind of like to like kind of keep an eye out for a lot of these new AI models, and it's a good idea to just use one of them to build your next project. And then I've got a lot of value out of keeping my projects free and open source, so that folks are kind of incentivized to share it if it's for consumers if it's free, and then developers if it's open source because they like looking at the code. And thankfully I've gained about 20,000 Twitter followers this year, and like 20,000 GitHub stars, just for making stuff kind of free and open source. So you kind of get to build an audience through that as well, which is really nice. And then I guess the last piece of feedback that I have is that you want to really focus on the UI of a lot of these side projects. You want to make sure that the UI looks good and is very straightforward and easy to use. And yeah, I think that's really the biggest differentiating factor in a lot of the projects that I do is I try to build something and just make it look a little nicer than most people, or make it a little easier to use than most people, and that tends to that tends to do really well. So yeah, that's kind of all I had for y'all. Just just kind of showing off my AI journey, showing off a bunch of AI projects that I've built, and then some kind of lessons learned in building these AI projects. So yeah, happy to answer any questions if anybody has any, or we can end early, or kind of up for anything at this point. I see there's a comment. Somebody catch me up, please. Yeah, I mean, I kind of just wrapped up my talk where I went through a bunch of the AI projects that I built, and talked about some lessons learned for building AI projects. So that was essentially today's stream. If you have any specific questions about building AI projects or anything like that, I'm happy to answer them if you're just tuning in. All right. I don't think I see any more questions. So I think we can just wrap up early. Um, yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. Thanks for having me. And yeah, have a good rest of your weekends.